Hey, and welcome to our explainer. Every single time a doctor makes a diagnosis, there's this incredible hidden world working behind the scenes. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on pathology, the science that literally reads the secrets hidden inside our cells to solve some of the most critical medical mysteries out there. Okay, so let's picture this. You go to the doctor, they take a small tissue sample, a biopsy. They send it off to a lab somewhere, and then what happens? Who are the people that actually figure out what's going on? Who cracks the case? Well, that's exactly what we're about to dive into. All right, let's kick off our investigation and meet the discipline that specializes in solving these crucial medical mysteries. The answer is a field called pathology. And the name itself gives you a huge clue, right? It comes from the Greek words pathos, meaning disease, and logia, meaning study. So it's literally the study of disease. It's the science that explains an illness by digging into its cause, how it works, and what it's doing to the body. You know, a really great way to get your head around pathology is to see where it fits. So think about anatomy and physiology. Those fields study the body when it's working perfectly, its normal, healthy state. Well, pathology is the science of what happens when things go wrong. It's the study of the abnormal. To really figure out what's gone wrong, pathologists basically become detectives. Seriously. And just like any good detective, they don't just guess. They have a structured method, a system they use to crack the case. And it all boils down to a few very important questions. See, this system is how they build a complete picture of a disease. To solve any case, no matter the illness, this disease detective has to find the answers to 4 fundamental questions. First up, they ask about the cause, or what's technically called etiology. What kicked this whole thing off? Is it genetic, an infection, something else? Then they look at the mechanism, or pathogenesis. Okay, so how does that cause actually make the body sick? What's the chain of events? Third, they hunt for the evidence. These are the morphologic changes. What physical changes has the disease caused in the cells and tissues? And finally, the big one. What's the impact? This is the clinical significance. How is all of this affecting the patient's health? Answering these 4 questions tells the complete story. Okay, so our detective has their questions ready, but where do they actually find the clues? Well, for that, we have to go inside the pathologist's lab. This is where the evidence gets uncovered. So remember that biopsy we talked about? That little piece of tissue? That's where the investigation kicks off. But you can't just stick that under a microscope. It has to be carefully prepared through a pretty amazing multi-step process. First, they have to preserve the tissue to stop it from decaying. That's called fixation. Then it gets processed so it can be sliced. And the next step, sectioning, is wild. They slice it so thin it's just 1 cell thick. Think about that. Finally, that super thin slice gets stained with special dyes. And that's what makes all the different parts of the cells light up and become visible. And boom, just like that, a piece of raw tissue is completely transformed. It becomes a readable clue, a thin piece of glass that holds the secrets to what's going on, all ready for the pathologist to investigate. This whole process, from the tissue to the slide, is called histopathology. And it's so important that our source material calls it the gold standard for pathologic diagnosis. And why is that? Because it's not a shadow on a scan or a number from a blood test. This lets doctors see the disease directly. They are looking right at the misbehaving cells. It's about as definitive as you can get. All right, so the lab work is done, the evidence is prepped. Now it's time to connect it all back to our detective and crack this case once and for all. So the pathologist sits down with that slide, looks through the microscope, and by analyzing that evidence, they provide the diagnosis. And let's be clear, this is the answer, the one that guides every single medical treatment that comes next. It's absolutely crucial. You see how it all just clicks into place? The 4 questions give them the framework for the investigation. The lab work provides the actual physical evidence, and when you put them together, that reveals the final diagnosis. It helps doctors understand everything, the symptoms, how the disease might progress, and exactly how to treat it. But here's where it gets even cooler. Pathology is about more than just solving one case at a time. Let's zoom out and look at the really big picture, because this is where you see why it's so fundamental to all of medicine. The real power move of pathology is finding these universal patterns that are common to pretty much all diseases. They call this general pathology. It's not just about one specific illness in one organ. It's about figuring out the basic rules of how our bodies react when things go wrong, no matter what it is. And check out this example. It's a perfect illustration. The source material points out that acute inflammation, when something gets red and swollen, has the exact same basic mechanism, whether it's a little scrape on your skin or a dangerous infection around your brain. The location is totally different, but the body's fundamental response is the same. Mind-blowing, right? So you see, pathology gives us this kind of universal language for understanding disease. It reveals the fundamental rulebook for how our bodies respond to injury and illness, no matter where it happens. It's like finding the source code for how our bodies react to damage, and that knowledge is foundational for all of medicine. When you really think about it, pathology has literally taught us how to read the language of our own cells. It's the science that turns a mystery into a clear diagnosis, giving doctors the map they need to help us heal. And it just makes you wonder, what other secrets are our cells just waiting to tell us?